What's up? Thank you to the one person that was waiting. We're going to go ahead and knock out this disclaimer while we wait for some people to show up. As per usual, I am not a medical professional, and your major changes make you a diet or any other aspects of your lifestyle, so you need to check with the doctor with before enacting in your own life. I'm also not a financial advisor. Nothing I say is a recommendation for an investment. Furthermore, I'm a law-abiding citizen. Nothing I say is an admission of guilt. And lastly, but not leastly, all opinions are my own and are in no way affiliated with Google, YouTube, or any other network that you may be viewing this on in the future. That being said, happy Easter, everybody. Benito, welcome. Now Blow, welcome. Good to see you guys. We're going to go ahead and let this thing get started. Anything you want to talk about? We're waiting for some action here. We're not sure if this is going to work out. People might be doing holiday stuff today, so we'll see if this stream pops off or not. I'm not super attached to streaming today, but we'll see what happens. We'll see. I'm prepared for either scenario. I'm doing good. Doing my Sunday Vice right here, and then getting ready for my Monday fast. What are you guys up to? Oh, seems like it's going a little slow. It's all right. Pokey Potter says, how are you? Happy Easter. And good to see you as well, Pokey Potter. I'm doing well. Happy Easter. I'm going to give it 5 minutes to get going, you guys. Or 2.5 in. So I'm going to give it a couple more minutes before I call it. Anything you would like to talk about? Oh, there we go. We're starting to get a couple people. Oh, there we go. Okay. We got stuff going on. Welcome, Lily. I didn't prepare a topic for today. I was considering maybe, pulling some acceptable Bible verses, but then I thought about it and decided that I didn't want to do that. So we're not doing Bible stuff today, though we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. We can, if you have anything pertaining to that realm, we can also chat about it. I'm not totally closed to it. I just didn't want to pre-prepare for something that I didn't really want to do. Good morning, Kimberly. Come on, we got 20 people in here. We need a topic. What are you guys trying to dive into? I put on my white shirt and everything. Don't leave me hanging. I drank the forbidden juice. Come on. I'm ready. $67, Lindsay Cole. What does that mean? Noy, good morning. 68. Oh, you're counting down till the end of the stream. You guys, we got to get a topic. Otherwise, we're going to have a no starter here. We haven't had a no starter in a while, but it's understandable because it's a holiday. But Dion says, "Is bro still active in 2026?" I guess we'll give you a new lease. That's technically a question. I'm active on YouTube. I am doing some, I'm dabbling within the realm of personal content creation. So it's been going well lately. And but nothing on the professional side, I would say. Rizzy Red says, I wish I had that kind of hair. You know, Rizzy Red, all you have to do to make your hair like this is absolutely nothing. It's really an interesting phenomenon. Whereas you probably very rarely see someone of my complexion with hair like this. It actually is completely natural formation, if you could believe that. So all you really got to do is throw out your conditioner and your hairbrushes, and you'll eventually have hair just like this, or just in some way. Let's see. Am I sitting down? Yes, I'm sitting down. I'm only 6'2". Regardless of what the internet trolls write about me. Thanks, Dion. Okay, we got 33 people in here. That's like enough to have a conversation. What do you guys want to talk about today? What are you guys up to today? Talk about my sex life again? What about it? We can talk about it. How old is he, chat? You can just ask me directly, Alex. We're struggling for a conversation here, so. But I am 40 years old. How active am I? I would say I'm active. I'm just not. I'm not active in like the normal way that most people would think of when they think of active, because for me, I'm like all about the retention. But luckily, I have mastered self control to the extent that I can do both. Welcome, Julian. Where am I at? I am in Miami. Martin List wants to know if I could fight. And if I could, I would never admit to it. Mihaela says, how is the subject of vanity surrounding to you? How do you see vanity? Vanity. That's a good question. Okay, thank you, Mihaela, for being here, first off, because you always have such good questions. And that is quite the question indeed. You know, so there's almost nothing I can say about vanity, which is not going to be somewhat stereotypical because of the nature of my livelihood, which partially depends upon me pretending to have some level of vanity because it's the only thing which is apparently socially acceptable nowadays. If you don't at least pretend, then people, the average public member tends to think negative things about you, which is okay as well. But even that, caring about what other people think about you, is also a form of vanity. So maybe it's not pretending after all. Maybe it is to some level real. But what do I think about it? I mean, it's extremely harmful for sure. It's definitely, uh, you know, well rooted within the realm of pride, which is a grievous sin, uh, one of the worst, in fact. Uh, I don't know. You might have stumped me on that one. I think that this might be a deep enough question that I'd have to meditate on it and think about it for a little while. I might come back to it. I'm going to let this run a process in the back of my mind and see if there's anything I want to expand on about vanity. Um, but I would say it's definitely probably one of the most harmful of all of the sins in this present era, I would say, in this current chapter of Kali Yuga. Vanity is probably one of the most common and detrimental manipulations which are being actively employed towards the enslavement of the human race. And being rooted in pride, you can partially attribute all other aspects of pride, which are also harmful. Partially, let me reiterate, to vanity as well. But it's definitely something that is encouraged by the powers that be because it makes people very, very, very easy to manipulate. We can expand on that, but I would need some you're gonna have to dangle the carrot a little bit, and maybe I could get moving that direction. I don't know if I was totally prepared for the vanity thing. I mean, I did put on my white shirt today, and I even showered. So, but I didn't shave. So, Noi, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate you. Also, you guys, if you feel impatient and want to skip the line on the chat if it gets going here, remember you can always do a super chat. That's a thing. So on and so forth. Let's see what we got going on here. Some people are interested in him live, not only about that. But that's true. Then thank you, Nablo, for also for mentioning that. You know, my aspiration, it's like the realm of my old work is something that while I don't think I can make the claim of being the most known person ever in history or anything like that, but I do feel that that was an area that I felt I already had conquered at some point in my life, and it really kind of has taken a backseat in my own aspirations, which is why I have kind of renounced most things within that realm. And while the act itself, at least in the way that I'm willing to do it, I don't see a problem with. I do see a problem with fitting myself into the mold in which would allow me to continue being successful there. So we're kind of at a stalemate in that realm. But my current aspirations are more towards a personal, spiritual thing. And I'm doing this YouTube thing in the hopes that I can help other people have an experience which enlightens them to the possibilities which they may have missed when they were creating their list of hopes and dreams and whatnot. Oh, your third eye is blocked. Possibly. I'm having I think that maybe I am struggling a little bit today. Let's see. Kimberly Nelson says, I thought gluttony was the worst sin. I mean, gluttony is pretty bad if you're like eating other living things a lot. It would definitely be a pretty horrible thing. But, if that was like your priority in life. But as far as, our current problem, which is the fact that we all live in a hyper-controlled matrix where we're completely and totally enslaved and carrying these little tracking, listening, spy devices in our pockets that manipulate our brain waves, and we're afraid to go outside without them. And, we're constantly updating our, facial profiles and whatnot every time we open it so that we could be tracked in basically every way, shape, and form. That all really ties into the realm of pride and vanity. So I would say that while gluttony is certainly a very personally harmful act, as well as harmful to everything that's being eaten and consumed, and probably is to some level leading us towards extinction had major steps not already been taken back in 2020 towards the reduction of the population. It probably would have ended us, but sadly, powers that be were already forced into taking some major actions against that outcome. And I do believe it was probably a successful endeavor. Let's see. Taint God says, how can we be loving when he commanded a mother to kill his own son? Binding of Isaac completely contradicts the Bible and God so-called love. Well, I would say that the Bible is probably like the single most corrupted document ever written about religion in all of history. I mean, it is possible that maybe other texts could have been corrupted as well, and probably very likely in some cases. But I would say of all things which have been, what's the word? When they it's when they can't stop a movement with violence. What they do is they take it in and then they pervert it until it loses its meaning, right? And that's kind of what happened with that whole thing. So I wouldn't really personally, I think that's probably the worst place to look to find information about the source of life, which you refer to as God. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Taint God says, Jesus was only a man. He didn't have magical powers. He used manipulation to gain his followers. Walking water, try heat wave, coming off the sand where he lived. Well, let's just say that there's definitely is more, probably, whether or not any of that really happened, I don't know. I can't really personally comment, but I think that both sides require a certain level of assumption, right? You could assume that it's all real because it was written about, or you can assume that it was all fake because you've never seen anything like that. But the truth probably lies somewhere more near the center between those two things. There probably was some truth to it because there are a lot of things metaphysically which are possible, which just aren't witnessed every day by the average person. For example, like the yogis walking around almost naked in the Himalayas and, negative 30, 40 degrees weather, possibly people levitating and instant healing, things like that are definitely probably real and true and possible. And probably, there's definitely been far more people than just Jesus himself who could perform these miracles or whatever, but they weren't nailed on a cross in front of, the public. And so they didn't achieve any level of martyrdom that made them so famous for these exploits. And that's probably because most people who have achieved union with the divine, as Jesus definitely did if he was real, would have the wisdom to know that it was going to end in martyrdom if they were very public with these abilities. So there's a lot to be said there. But I wouldn't make too many assumptions because, as I like to say, you can't spell assumption without first spelling ass. And usually when you assume anything, you just make an ass out of yourself. So, and that's not a diss. I'm just saying, it's good practice. Ross says, just go live in the woods. And I will tell you that has been a long time consideration. In fact, I did somewhat live in the wild for a while, and it was one of the best chapters of my life. And I constantly think about doing it again, though I would actually even go as far as to say that I will be living in the jungle very soon. So we'll see. Hopefully I can come up with some way to continue these little chats, or possibly not. We'll see what happens. Taint God says, water to wine, yeah, that's called fermentation. You didn't touch a glass, magic turned wine. Well, I will tell you that I personally wished for a blunt one time, and it fell out of thin air. It was fresh in Vegas. So, I definitely believe he could have turned water into wine. However, I believe that you would have to want wine on some level that's probably a little bit unhealthy in order to make something like that happen. I definitely don't doubt that happened. Of all the miracles that Jesus was reported to have done, I would say the water into wine one is the one I believe in most, because I know that long ago, way before I even had any kind of spiritual aspirations, I did go through a crisis where I wanted a blunt really bad, and the blunt appeared. So who knows? It's hard to really say. Let's see. Is this what the world thinks potheads are? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the world thinks. It's really pretty hard to refer to anything as the world, right? Because that requires a generalization, right? And even if you were to break down the world into much smaller groups, such as potheads or non-potheads, or, however you want to do it, right? Anytime that you make a generalization, you are going to be partially wrong, right? So it's better to just instead focus on the self and ask yourself, like, what do I think? Is this what I think a pothead is? Because I'll tell you, I haven't smoked pot in a very long time. Yet here I am, probably am looking stereotypically like a pothead. And when I was smoking a lot of pot, I looked very much like probably more of what somebody would expect of a very health-focused, Chad-like bro of some sort, right? So you really can't make any assumptions. Sometimes things are not what they appear. Let's see. Taint God says, remember God told a mother to kill her evil child Isaac. That's not loving, that's evil and very dictator-like. Well, I'm going to assume that that probably was something that happened in the Old Testament, right? And today is a holiday more celebrating the New Testament, but I would just in general say that anything that can be written can be misunderstood and can also be corrupted and changed throughout history. And this has only gotten worse because while the written word has always had this problem, as well as the spoken word, nowadays we have the digital word and deepfake technology and AI and all this shit, but they can literally change this live video that I'm saying right now. There can be a 10-second delay or 20-second delay or whatever from when I'm saying this, my camera's recording it, it's going into the internet, it's going to a server, bouncing off whatever other bullshit that it has to do to get to you. And in that time, if they really wanted to, they could change what I'm saying, change my image, change everything, right? And you would only see whatever they wanted you to see. So instead of, taking everything word for word or reading books or this and the other, what I always recommend is like giving up your addictions, practicing semen retention, partaking in, health optimization, meditation, fasting, things like that, right? And by doing things like that, then possibly you can talk to the divine yourself. You could have an experience with the divine yourself that goes far beyond words, something that encompasses all of the 5 physical sensations as well as multiple spiritual sensations as well, all the way into the emotions and so on and so forth. And through that, and even a couple moments and even a couple minutes within a deep state of meditation, right? And a couple moments with the divine could be like years and years and years. And you can come to understand far more than reading any book 1,000 times over again could ever teach you. So just something to consider. Shambles is stockpiling the DMT. That's good. Blue Neptune says, yes, Bruce, pride and vanity. But pervert what? Well, perversion is um, it's also a manipulation. You know what I'm saying? You have to ask yourself, if you were like raised in, say, the jungle or the forest, and you never encountered the internet or television or anything else, right? And all you had to work with was your basic instincts and your own innocent, your own innocence, right, to form your morals and values and so on and so forth. Uh, what then would be considered perverse to you, right? So, it's always this constant struggle within this world of duality, right? And so one thing can only be compared to another, right? Otherwise, neither would exist. So for something to be perverse, you have to be comparing it to something that is considered the opposite of that. It's only perverse in relation to another thing, right? So while you can say, okay, you made adult movies, that's perverse compared to somebody who did not do that, or somebody that only ever had, say, sex through a hole in a sheet, never actually made contact with a woman, right? Or you can compare that to like other people on the internet that worked in my realm that were doing far more, extreme acts. And then I would be the non-perverse one, right? So it's really all just apples to oranges. So it's your perception, which is the only reality. And your perception is formed by your own experiences. Mm, let's see. E. Clark Tube says nut milk or soy milk. I mean, I do real milk, to be honest. While I don't completely support the dairy industry, in as far as like moralistically, it is one of my um, unfortunate weaknesses is that I do enjoy real milk, and I don't actually have an issue with cow titty. I just have an issue with cruelty. And while I would like to not support an industry that does cruel things, um, I also don't have access to any well-treated cows. So I am partaking in an occasional dairy treat. Let's see. Someone said, that's true, Bruce. This is why the Lord came in the age of faith. Well, right now we're in the age of illusion, right? And um, part of that illusion is that there exists some accurate uh, philosophy of which was given to man by a human avatar of God, which is most likely not true. Let's see. Am I a lawyer? I am not a lawyer. Let's see. I'm looking for. Berryman says, "Wait, are you the Bruce Venture, the video star? I am the one and only." Buford. What's up, Nico? How you doing, my friend? Let's see. Um, second, let's see. User says, "I like almond milk with only almonds." No gums and whatnot. Well, that's good. And no added preservatives. That's good. You should definitely always avoid the preservatives and maybe even the gums if possible. So, great side note. Let's see. Do I keep in contact with Holly Michaels? You know, I don't keep in contact with Holly Michaels. Titus Black says, "Can you pray for me? I struggle with lust." Well, I don't think that my praying for you is really the answer to struggling with lust, um, rather than it is for self-control and to identify the source of that lust. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why do I struggle with lust? You see what I'm saying? And if you can answer that question of why, then you can trace it back to the root of the issue, right? And you can do whatever you can do there to nip it in the bud, so to speak. Okay, looks like I made it to the bottom of the chat. Let's see. Gosh dang good said, "Did you stop doing videos?" Laugh out loud. Yes, I stopped doing videos. Buford's buddy says, "Yeah, it was a great weekend here. We had a walk in the northern woods." That's good. Helen Hughes says, "Oh Jesus." Warframe says, "I would say it's a plus." I'm not really sure what talking about, but it's okay. And user RK says, "Got to reprogram your own subconscious mind, symbols, repetitions, and trauma." And I don't know what that you're responding to on that, but I would agree in general. Too much testosterone? Oh, I think you meant to say testosterone. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I've always had relatively high testosterone. My blood work, so maybe. I don't know. I think it's more about balance and what you do with it. Let's see. Kansi says, "Happy spring and happy Easter. Here's to new beginnings and brighter days ahead." I mean, yeah, I guess. New beginnings and brighter days. I guess they can always be brighter. My days have been pretty bright, to be honest. I'm doing well. But I hope that other people can do better. And I hope the world in general can also do better, which I hope that's actually what you mean. Noise says, "Looking at the mental problems of today, what do I suggest?" Do I suggest for the mental problems of today? Oh man. You know, I'm pretty sure that I could probably get arrested um, if I was to suggest solutions to the mental problems of today. Um, but I will try to be, what's the word? I will try to state this in a way which is open to translation, right? My vocabulary is struggling a little bit today, but I would say that the internet in general is one of the biggest problems regarding mental problems of today. The other big part of the problems that's causing mental troubles is probably the food and the chemicals that they're putting in the food. I'm sure that there's probably some big problems regarding people's mental welfare that trace back to the Institute of Psychiatry, uh, pharmaceuticals, definitely the agricultural industry probably plays a big role. Um, Religion is not helping. All in all, I would say that we need a major reset, which, judging off of what I can see from the ground level here, it seems like we are headed towards that. Now, whether or not it will be a successful endeavor or it will cause a complete and total collapse of human life on this planet, it's hard to say. But for sure, I would say that the internet, social media, so on and so forth, now this AI, deep fake video bullshit, it's definitely playing a major role, probably the largest role overall. And my suggestion towards the alleviation of all those problems is probably not permitted to be talked about. And it's not really worth talking about anyways, because it would require a concerted effort towards the alleviation of said problems from a very large portion of the population. And it would need to happen some type of coordination, which is unlikely to unfold without a reliable means of communication, right? Which does not exist because all of our ability to communicate between each other on this planet has been pretty much corrupted. And now, given the advancements of computer technology and whatnot, it's much more easy to monitor because they don't have to use actual human manpower to sift through everything anymore. They can just kind of, allow the machine to choose targets if indeed anything out of line started to happen. So realistically, barring, I don't really think it's anything that can be solved on like a human level. I think that it truly will require an act of God or nature, which is the same, to solve. But who knows? There could be a big solar flare, or the poles could reverse, or something could happen, and that would be our best bet, I think, in changing the obvious future, which is on its way. But then again, all that is kind of discounting the idea that this is all just a big illusion. And instead of, trying to influence things ourselves so much, the best thing we can do is just work on ourselves and work on our power of detachment and try to enter the observer state where instead of worrying about all these different mental health problems going on in society, we can work on our own mental state. And the best way to do that is to stop being attached to the outcome and just live your life and stop worrying about what other people are doing, what other people think, if it's not happening in a way where you can personally affect it, right? So, one thing about duality, while duality is a brutal system, it's a brutal underlying fundamental thing in this world. One good thing about duality, the thing that makes duality in some way beautiful, is that balance is always achieved. And while it might seem like we're in a chaotic chapter of history where things are very much unbalanced and a lot of stuff is fairly hopeless, it only seems like that because we're looking at it with through the lens of a constrained time span, right? And so if we remove the time constraints, right, stop thinking about everything within the time span of our own lives or maybe the few generations surrounding us, right, which is probably about the most that most people do, and we look instead at everything through the course of infinity, we'll realize that very much so everything is mean reverting, right? And the path to hell very much is paved in good intentions, and that's how we got here, right? So while as, often people with a lot of influence or power or so on and so forth try to do good things, it always ends up backfiring over the long term, right? This is something we can see in many examples of. A good one, given the religious holiday, is religion, right? So the path to hell very much is paved in good intentions. We can see how that works out. And on the opposite side of it, sometimes, the path to heaven is something that people are too lazy to walk. People are too lazy to do unless there's something evil chasing them, right? So it does seem like everything is very much doom and gloom nowadays. We're headed in a very bad direction. What is inherently true is that it will revert in the opposite direction based upon the natural contention that good has towards these events and happenings. So, instead of seeing everything as a negative, you can more look at it as like the fuel for the positive. You're right, because any definition that we can give something only exists in contrast to the definition of its opposite, right? So, yeah, I'm sure I kind of got a little bit off of the original question there, but I got a bit wordy, but we'll see what's going on. Spicy is stress. Nico says, do you have a lot of daily returning rituals? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but you know, you can elaborate for sure. Nico. If you mean like, do I have like daily spiritual practices? I would say yes. Let's see. Swaraj says, I'm addicted to screen and bad videos, became physically and mentally weak like from 6 years. How can I regain my life? I want to become conscious and normal like you. I would be grateful for an answer. Well, you know, we tend to revert. They say that the mind prefers a familiar hell to an unfamiliar heaven, right? Or I'm probably said that wrong, but you know, I'm just going to focus on what you said because you said screen and videos, and this is clearly like a phone problem, right? And I think a lot of people underestimate how much they are addicted to screen and phone and why that they're addicted to screen and phone. And that goes far beyond just watching videos, but it goes all the way in. It's for most people also become like a very fear-based thing. So when we think of like low vibrational emotions, right? And these are like fear, lust, guilt, shame, hate, right? It's very easy to see that these are also all emotions which make you very easy to control, right? So it's all a big control thing. It's the ball and chain that keeps us enslaved as a society, as a species. The human race is enslaved worse than ever at any time in history. And there's always been slavery throughout every course of history in every part of the world, right? But now is the time when everybody, almost like it's like 99% of the population is fucking totally enslaved. And the way that they do that is through fear, shame, guilt, hate, these low vibe emotions. And how do they instill these low vibe emotions? Well, they do it by nowadays using algorithmic content that they feed you through your phone. Right? So you might open a video of puppies playing and think that that's amazing, but you don't choose what the next reel that you're going to see is going to be. And I'm sure we've all noticed that sometimes we open puppies playing and something cute, and our next reel is like somebody getting, attacked or something, some act of violence or some political thing, or war or whatever, right? So they rolled out social media and stuff as a timeline where you followed certain people and everything came out on like a linear time-based posting thing, and it was just the people that you followed, so on and so forth. But now they just feed you random stuff based upon your algorithm. But the algorithms are all slanted towards pushing these low-level emotions because these low-level emotions make you easy to manipulate. And they're data harvesting on everybody. Like even if you're not on your phone or don't have it open, it's recording like how many steps you take and your blood pressure and your who knows like how much, like how to what level it can like read your brain. Like it knows like how fast you're typing, what kind of mood you're in based upon all these little things. Like there's so much data that's being harvested even if you're not on it, right? But how do they get you to carry it with you all the time? Well, fear, right? This is just an example. They show you all this stuff. They show you all these videos constantly, whatever, of people like getting beaten and people are just recording it, trying to whatever, so that they have evidence to turn into the police rather than actually defending themselves or whatever, stuff like that, right? And so people are like, they show you all the stuff, people being robbed and, whatever they do, like people think they need their phone on them to be safe. In reality, most things that happen too fast for your phone or any kind of help to come, even if you were able to get a phone call off. It happens, so it doesn't help you at all. It only actually just distracts you, or it's a false sense of security. And they want you to have this false sense of security so that you constantly have it on you, and so you start developing this thing. So they don't even have to, like, they used to say, oh, they're going to microchip everybody and track everybody. Well, they don't have to. Fucking most people can't walk outside without their phone, or they get scared. They're afraid emergency can happen. Even on the opposite side, say you're a fucking super tough dude that can fight, you've got the muscles and the training and all that shit. They'll get you brainwashed that something's going to happen to your family or your loved one. So you got to have your phone on you so that you can get that call and you can go back and help them if they need it, right? When in reality, whatever's going to happen is probably going to happen long before you can get there, right? So these are just a couple examples. You know what I'm saying? They'll work it on the other side too of, the lustful side and the politics, the hate, the division, so on and so forth, the fear of war. They have all these little tricks for it, but it's all just data harvesting, keeping this device on you all the time so you can't put it out. So the strongest way to reclaim your sovereignty is to literally go outside into nature, go take a fucking walk. Okay, and I know this is harder for some people based upon where they live. Some people do live in more dangerous places than others. But, if you live somewhere, you got some kind of sense of community or something, right? Maybe you have whatever, some way to defend yourself or whatever, you're probably okay. And just instead of looking for like some trick or whatever to just solve this one aspect, your lustful aspect or your addiction to whatever, just look at the phone as your full source of all these issues, right? And this goes back to Noy's question as well about mental health. Like, the best thing that you can do is to literally leave this fucking thing at home. Excuse my language. Leave your phone at home. Go outside. And at first, you might be like, this is boring. Maybe it takes a little while because you're trained. You're trained to need this constant dopamine rush, right? But at some point, your brain will regulate, and all of a sudden you'll be like, wow, this is so peaceful. Like, this is actually so beautiful. Most people can go outside and they see some beautiful trees, beautiful mountains, beautiful ocean, just even a pathway, a nice park, whatever, right? Even if you're in fucking central urban, nastiest, dirtiest city you can imagine. I've had experiences where I looked at it while I was chanting and like in like a spiritual state, and I could only even see beauty in the most ugliest place imaginable. There's beauty in everything if you look at it for what it is, which is a simulation of some sort, right? For lack of a better term, an illusion, however you want to look at it, a dream. It's only when you see it through this filter of words and ego that it's not beautiful. And I'm saying, a piece of garbage floating on the street can be beautiful if you look at it through the lens of, wow, I'm in this simulation, or I'm in this dream, I'm in this illusion, and it's absolutely so real and detailed that somebody threw this garbage on the ground, and it probably weeks ago, and it just blew past me. You know what I'm saying? Like, the absolute realness of it, how real it seems, even though it's not real, is beautiful in its own way. It's like, wow, what a What an amazing thing. And if you can grasp onto this concept, it's like a lucid dream. You know, if you've ever had a lucid dream where you woke up and you realized you were dreaming and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can fly, I can do whatever, right? It's like that. It's just not, it's maybe not always as instantly responsive. Sometimes it can be. But like, this is what people refer to as manifestation, right? Manifestation happens based upon your level of consciousness. And your level of consciousness is really based upon how much you realize that this is an illusion, right? And you can't realize that when you're sitting here fucking scrolling through your fucking phone, fucking, oh my God, fucking war, fucking, oh my God, people are getting robbed, oh my God, like fucking ass and titties, like whatever the hell that they got you to fucking scroll, even if it is puppies. They have deep fake technology. We don't even know what images are real anymore. And guess what? They've always been able to do that. It's just that now they gave it to everybody because they want to hide the real stuff. And they want to create doubt in every video because really true, horrible shit exists now that's been captured on video. And they want to sow, it's gotten to the point that there's so many cameras everywhere that they now have circled around the back to make everything be like, oh, maybe that's fake. So what's the point of even using this thing? What's the point of using that? Like, this could be fake. I might not even be real. Don't even fucking listen to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all fucking bullshit. This device is the single greatest weapon on the planet. It's enslaved the entire, almost all of humanity. And even the parts of humanity that don't have phones, in their own way, are enslaved too, because they've been quarantined in their own little circle where they can't fucking, they're stuck there. You know what I'm saying? They're starving them out. It's like a siege on anyone that's not enslaved. So the cure for everything is leave this thing at home. If you can put it in a metal box, do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to do anything with, like, they've engineered society around it. You got to pay double at fucking, not saying that you should eat McDonald's, but you got to pay double at McDonald's if you don't have the app. Right? All your points in your grocery stores, applications and cards and all that shit, that's all worked into the price of everything there. Okay? If you're rich, you can be like, fuck it, I don't care, I don't fucking need this shit. Well, then do that. Walk around with nothing but a credit card. But remember that your credit card is also getting tagged and binged on its little chip everywhere you go. They know everywhere that you've been just because you got a credit card on you in your name. You know, and that's to say that they don't have some type of DNA tagging stuff or whatever, that heavy metals that are, you know, have the radio frequency, the RFID built into them that are circulating your blood and will never leave as well either. They probably have that. Who knows? So the cure for everything is get rid of this thing. Let's see. Rob Becker said, I can't help but notice your nice shirt, bro. Yeah, I thought it was Easter. I was like, I'm going to put on a white shirt. Buford's buddy says, and what are your next travel plans? I'm going to Vienna in May. I'm moving to the jungle. I'm not telling you which jungle yet, but I'll be in the jungle soon. Sorry, guys, for the long rant. Let's see. Kenzie says, how do you cultivate in yourself a sense of inner peace and connection with something greater than yourself? Just by paying attention, you know, just realizing that, like, everything is God. I don't like the word God because it's a word. It can be misunderstood. Different people have different conceptions of God, right? The true God, the thing that is the highest of the high, is beyond words, right? And when you realize that everything is that, literally everything, you know, And this is proven through quantum mechanics. You know what I'm saying? The fact that things, sorry, had a little lag there, but the fact that things behave differently under observation, even small particles, but even things larger than that, you realize that it's just all an illusion. It's beautiful once you realize that. Even like some stuff is horrible, but it's like, it's everything is built into one. This is like the ultimate entertainment. Like if you have all the fucking time in the world, if you have eternity, right? Unlimited imagination, this is what you do. This is the fun. Even the scary parts. You know what I'm saying? We watch, some people like scary movies. Some people like romance. Some people like drama. Some people like war. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever kind of movies that different people like, to realize that the world is that. It's a big movie. And you are a consciousness that is so vast, you've had to split yourself into billions of different viewpoints to truly appreciate your own creation. And if you look at it through that light, then no matter what you're experiencing, when you realize the truth of karma and reincarnation, instead of falling into the fear-based trap of heaven and hell, and you realize that it really is all karma, and that you live so many times over again that you have to experience every foul deed that you ever do from the opposite side as well, then you realize that there is no good and evil, right? Like the same people that are having atrocities and negative things done to them today are the same people that did those same things to someone else during another life. And that at some point you're going to get to look at that entire data set of all these multiple experiences side by side with unlimited processing power, right? And that the personality which is created by that analysis is akin to, a interdimensional being of some sort is what you're going to eventually become. And that you most likely already were. So, I don't remember what the original question was, but, oh yeah, inner peace, connection. But I mean, everything. It's everything. Layla says, what do you think about teaching horticulture in all public schools? I think it's an amazing idea, but they're never going to do that. That's like teaching, why not teach horticulture and finance and teach people how bonds and the whole fiat currency bullshit system works? Why don't teach people how to have success in life? Teach people how to be free and independent. Teach people how to, make their own gas from plastic and, how to have their own food and be food independent, and how to regulate their emotions and be at peace. Why not do all these things in school? The only answer to everything is through education. There's nothing that we can do in any other way to fix our problems or become an enlightened society other than through education. Education is the only path to anything. But They put all of the education energy is just a mental enslavement indoctrination game. It's not a mistake. It's on purpose. Why don't they do it now? Because they don't want people to be free. Do you see what I'm saying? But the thing is that that's someone else playing their game too. And, you know, the reason why it's played like that is because they don't have faith in people to do anything good. You know? And as much as it might seem all evil and fucked up from our point of view, we're not able to listen to every conversation that ever happens and monitor every word that's ever typed across the internet and with every microphone that's in every TV and every phone and everything. We don't have as much data as they have. So maybe they know something that we don't know, and maybe it would just go, there's a reason why everyone has to be enslaved. Who knows, right? So all we can really do is focus on ourselves and be the best person that we can be. We can teach ourselves horticulture. We can teach our children horticulture. We can take our children out of public schools. We can put our phone down and go out into nature. Thank you, Swara. I appreciate you so much for the donation. And I'm looking forward to your update on the progress. You guys, don't forget that if you want to skip the line, you can definitely do a super chat, which is very cool. No Name says, have you quit adult acting? What do you do now? Well, now I already did that. So it's not like I stopped making money from it. It's not like it's, as much as it was when I was active, but by humbling myself and by trying to embody virtue instead of sin. Sin is all designed, is all being capitalized towards our enslavement, and our enslavement is all backed by the the root of our enslavement is the phone and the fiat currency system, right? That life doesn't have to be expensive if you live virtuously. You see what I'm saying? Sinful life is expensive. So what I do now is I live off of saving. You know what I'm saying? I live off virtue instead of just thinking I gotta, spend, because spending is the shackle of our slavery. It keeps us participating in the global slave system. Happy Easter. Sorry guys, what's up, Tony? Let's see. Yes, Tarzan's returning to the jungle Nita. Dharma? That's a good question. I like the one word questions. Dharma. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to get it right. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what to say about that. It's tough. Just Myself said, there's no good and evil. You lock your door at night. Yeah, I thought so. Well, not always. And the other thing, too, is if I didn't have to lock my door at night, if home invasion was completely solved, right? Let's say that, how do we solve needing to lock our door? Right? Let's figure this out. Let's talk about this. So what I'm saying is that one thing only exists without the other. You know what I'm saying? There could be no good if there was no evil, right? So if we solve the home invasion problem or the burglary problem, right? So that we didn't need locks on our doors, how would we do that? Well, probably the most obvious way is through violence, right? Like we could make the penalty for that so incredibly awful, right? That people would be terrified to do it to the level that nobody would ever walk through a door without permission. We could arm everybody, allow things that I can't even say on the internet to happen to those people if they're caught. You know what I'm saying? We could do it in public, air it on television, right? And then what's evil? Is that good or is that evil? There's a new evil now. Now burglary and home invasion is not evil, but rather instead the punishment for the crime is evil, right? So, and then on top of it, you got to realize that it's the same consciousness that's happening on both sides. The same person that's committing the crime is the same person, or the same consciousness that's committing the crime in one body is the same consciousness that's receiving the crime on the other end, right? And the only difference is awareness. You see what I'm saying? As a human, you are an awareness, right? And so you are aware of your senses, your world, and your perception, your experiences, right? As is each other person. But it's the same consciousness that it's all streaming up to, right? So, good and evil is just based upon a construct. And it has a lot to do with the construct of time. You see what I'm saying? No Name says, are you happier now or when you were in the adult star? What led you to be more spiritual? I am so much happier now. Like I can't even explain like the difference. Um, honestly, when I was literally living what most people would consider the dream life, and by the way, thank you for the donation. I was miserable. I had constant anxiety. I was very fearful. Um, I didn't have any privacy. I was living so deep in my ego that I couldn't even enjoy my relationships with the most beautiful women, so on and so forth. Because I would just be jealous, paranoid. Uh, I'd think people were going to try to rob me or, just all these negative emotions that I'm talking against right now. I was completely and totally enthralled by them through my entire career. And what led me to be more spiritual was honestly just, the whole story is on my feeds here. Like I started doing this after my first stage of enlightenment, right? I was streaming before, but you can see the obvious shift. Like before, I was into conspiracy theory and this and that. Maybe that was due to somewhat of a waking up. But at some point, I don't know, around I guess 2020, 2019, I got sick. I pretty much I was very sure that I was dying, and I eventually released like attachment to life. I accepted that I was going to die. And when I did that, there was something that happened when I was in Mexico, and after a couple years of my health just degrading and going in this constant downward spiral, um, somebody healed me doing through means that could only be considered a miracle, like literally energy healing, right? And instantaneously, like boom. Um, I'm not going to get super deep into the details. And so after that happened, I just started, other things just started happening. And I had a past life regression, and um, my eyes became very open to the fact that there was a lot more going on in the world than what I understood, as far as metaphysics and things going on. I was very based. I was very interested in science and stuff, and perhaps I was like, unknowingly going through some doing things that are kind of spiritual, with just trying to heal myself, like trying to fix my health. Like I was fasting, and I was, I had a lot of back problems, like, and I was doing a lot of like spinal mobility stuff and whatever. And then it was just a fluke. Like I seen a video randomly on the internet one day about the like, um, that and I was just driving through the desert one day, and I was bored, and I had just did a big comeback in the industry. Life was really good, and I just started chanting this and I was like chanting it for a couple hours, and I became enlightened. So if you want more details about that, I would definitely say go dive into the archives, because I go into way, 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 way greater details of every stage of it along the way, as like when it was freshly, as it had just happened. If I do it now, if I go into it now, I'll just end up rushing it and making it a way shorter version than whatever I've done in the past. But when that happened, I just became aware of the fact that not only did I exist before this body, but that I would exist after this body, that I would continue to exist, right? And that knowledge freed me from fear, from the fear of death, because for so long when my health was going down and I was having to, accept my own mortality, I was terrified of death. And then not only that, but like along with this knowledge during the same event when I was chanting, it's like, I don't know, my body just was healed in such a deep, deep, deep way. Not just my mind, not just my soul, but like my physical body as well. Just like instant, like, I mean, beyond healing. Like I had these health issues before, and this woman performed this thing on me, and that had healed my, major ailments and made me think that I was dying, right? But this was like complete and total rejuvenation, like getting a brand new body. And that came alongside with the knowledge of my own immortality, right? That these bodies are interchangeable, but the spirit doesn't die. And when those, like, between these two things, it's just like I experienced gratitude on a level that is completely beyond words, where I could just spend, I spent weeks just crying tears of happiness, just going, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And my initial question when that happened was, I was like, well, can I do that again? So I'm chanting all the time, so on and so forth. And then something else happened. I opened the all-seeing eye. I got to see through everybody's eyes across the entire world simultaneously. And I got to feel love in a way that I never even imagined possible. I mean, when I say love, it's just because I don't have another word for this, right? And, it just kept going. It was just like one thing after the next, after the next, after the next. And I just, I completely immersed myself into it. I just went into nature and I went into isolation. I spent sometimes even in silence, periods of time. Um, and, each one of these experiences taught me something that is just far, far, far beyond words. And that's what all these streams have been about for the last, that initial enlightenment happened on September 11th, 2023. So all the streams that were after that date have been a product of that. So I highly suggest, if it's really interesting, to watch these live streams in chronological order. And the first video that I did on Instagram, and I posted it to the video page as well. So the one's called like October 13th or October something stream from Instagram on the video page. That's the very first one after I decided that, you know what, I'll share this. And then the rest are all just in the live tab because I switched over to YouTube after that. But to say that I'm happier now than when I was in the industry is just a dramatic understatement. And when I was in the industry, I was completely ignorant to the idea that anything like this, any kind of piece of what I even like my bad days now contain peace on a level that I couldn't have even imagined during any time previously to September 11th, 2023. I would have never even imagined that it was possible to experience peace on a level of what my worst days are like now. And that's what's possible through spirituality. Like nothing in life is more important than union with the divine and overcoming the ego. There's nothing remotely comparable. And I think that if even a small portion of the human population was able to successfully do that, it would solve all of our collective problems. Because the closer you get to the divine, like the more lucid you become in life. And the more lucid that you become in life, the more life manifests and unfolds around you. And we all make up layers of the same. Like when I say we're all stemming from the same consciousness, another thing is like we all form that consciousness as well, right? But we form it in layers, right? It's like we're all working towards the center. We're working to be the one that's closest, right? And it's not like an ego-based thing. It's, in fact, you wanting to wanting it pushes you back, right? But the more that you align with that, like the higher priority your manifestations become, right? So it's not like we need half. It's not a democracy. You know what I'm saying? We don't need like half the world to become enlightened to make something happen. You know what I mean? Like we just need enough people on the same page that that inner core of it is in some type of consensus, and everything else will unfold around it in ways that is beyond our ability to comprehend unless we're in a state of complete and total union with the divine. And when you're in that state, which, you know, I don't know that there's another word for it other than like what they say in Sanskrit, in the, you know, Hindu thought, but they call this samadhi, right? And through this experience of samadhi, or in this state of samadhi, you can realize complete access to this greater consciousness where you kind of just forget yourself and become everybody and everything that has ever existed for a moment, right? And only in that state can it truly be comprehended. Can't be really explained in words or so on and so forth. And you can't really retain it all, because when you come back, you know, you remember the moral, you know what I'm saying? You come back with the moral of the story, but the details are very much so like a dream. They kind of get away from you after a while. Now, whether or not there are people who are able to stay in that place, in that state permanently, or I don't know. I mean, I hope that there is. Like, that's always that's like what my life is surrounded around. I don't really have any other aspirations in life other than to be in samadhi all the time, or as much as possible. But yeah, that's really, so when they say that like the best thing we can do for the world is to work on ourselves, that's what I believe that the masters mean by that. Because, you know, somewhere along that way, you experience unconditional love for all of mankind. And when you do that, you don't experience it just for the good parts. You know what I'm saying? You'll love you'll love the people that make you want to lock your door at night too. You know what I'm saying? That which people think of as God loves us all, and in a way that's impossible to imagine. It's, you know, that God loves the very worst of mankind more than the most loving mother in the world loves their child. It's completely uncomprehendable without experiencing. So that's what I mean when I say there's no good and evil. It's just it's a singular experience. It's just that we are, without being in a state of samadhi, your awareness is limited to your own senses. And so it becomes hard to, or impossible to comprehend what it means to be non-dual or to experience a state of oneness. Anyways, I hope that answered the question. Thank you again for the donation, No Name. I'm glad that you skipped the line with that one. It was a good question. Let's see. Rigo says, I mean, the outside is one of the best descriptions of the inside, no? I don't know. It really just depends how you see it. It's if you mean your perception, then yeah. You're going to perceive things based upon how you see them inside. Because for the average person, they're limited by their own experiences and their own perception. So what you see in others, right, is based upon what you see in yourself, what experiences you've had yourself, because you have to look through the limitations of your awareness. And unless you've accessed even, you know what I'm saying, the first step is to access like your past lives memories. You know what I'm saying? If you've not even experienced your past lives, then you don't even know who you are. You haven't even expanded your own awareness to yourself, to your own soul. And once you do that, then you can eventually take it a step further and try to expand your awareness to encompass everybody and all things, not even just all the humans. You can expand your awareness to encompass the entire earth and even the entire cosmos. You see, because even the planets and stars are conscious. And they're not just conscious, they're a lot more conscious than 99.9999% of humans that are walking around on Earth. It's Mr. Dog. Thank you for the donation. He says, I'm a 21-year-old American male. I've been active on OnlyFans for a few years, but I kind of need some tips. Do you respond to OnlyFans DMs? I do not. I am not really active on there. You know, I dumped a lot of stuff there a long time ago, and it just kind of sits there. And you know, it just is what it is. I can't really give a ton of advice here, but if you want to DM me on Instagram or something, I try to sometimes respond to DMs there. I don't really do the OF thing as far as like the DMs and stuff. Like I know that that's how people. That is how I know of other people that have had success there, where they do the most. Where that's how to be successful is to respond to DMs, but it's just not where my head's at or what I like to do with my time. So I don't do it. So I'm honestly the worst person to ask about that, because even though I could make tremendous amount of money on there, I don't care about it, and I don't put any effort or anything into it really. I just, you know, I'm kind of a content hoarder. I don't possess enough care for money, I guess, to even want to put any effort at all into anything that I don't want to do. You know, I just let everything come to me that wants to come to me. I like the creation aspect side of everything, and I do create sometimes, but I don't strive to be successful with it in any way. So I'm sorry. Thank you for the donation. I wish I had a better answer for you, but it's just not my realm anymore. You know, when I was in the industry, like I did that through, you know, I was a paid actor. There was no platform like that at the time. So good luck. Let's see. What else we got here? Tony says, Bruce, my question is about reincarnation. Can a person be present in more than one place through their senses, and can they achieve this through consciousness? Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that you mean like remote viewing and stuff, and definitely there's a fourth state of consciousness, right? There's They say there's the awake state, there's the asleep state, and there's the dream state, right? But there's also the fourth state, which they, again, I don't know of a word that they have for it uh, in English, but they say in Sanskrit, they call this Turiya or Turiya. I don't really know if I'm pronouncing that right. Turiya, right? And I have experienced that. And it does allow you to be in multiple places at one time, but pretty much, though, in my experience, now, not to say that I don't believe that it's possible to be in like a more physical, perceivable version of yourself where you can also be perceived by others. I believe you probably can do that if you're advanced enough, but you definitely can. Like remote viewing is for sure real, if that's what you mean. And as far as reincarnation, I mean, I do kind of think that I don't really think of like reincarnation necessarily as like a linear process, but more like a spider web or a circle, you know. So I do believe that we're living multiple existences side by side by side by side by side. You know what I'm saying? Like unlimited. But I think of it more like that when I think of the soul, which the soul is what reincarnates, right? When I think of the soul, I don't think of it as like, okay, this soul lived and died and went from here to here to here to here. I believe that all these things are happening like a spider web, right? It's crossroads or whatever. But the soul is the dial, right? Or the choices that a certain band of consciousness chooses. This is where free will comes from. It's from the soul, right? And this is the path through these things that you choose to be aware of, right? Because you're just a band of awareness. And that's what your soul is a band of awareness. So it's what route did you become aware of through this spider web of everything that ever was? And then through whatever means, at some point, you review these things side by side, and that creates a personality. But a personality, a higher self personality. And that's the way I think of it. So, the lower level of the less unified you are with that consciousness, the less control you have over, that dial is the way that I look at it. By becoming more conscious, you become more of like the curator of your own experience, which is really not really your experience, but the experience of God, which you're creating. So it's like, are you an actor in your movie, right? Are you an extra? Or are you the director? You know what I'm saying? That kind of a thing. Thank you, Brenda, for the gift. I appreciate you so much. Oh, thank you again. So that's really when we say levels of consciousness. It's who are you in this big movie production? You know what I'm saying? Like maybe you're just a stagehand. I'm not saying you, but you know what I'm saying? Like somebody could be completely, totally, just Neanderthal, like you're unibrow, like, you know what I'm saying? Like just a fucking extra. You know what I mean? There's not even an extra. They're like a stagehand. It's like a fucking an NPC, right? They're just moving props around, right? And like the next level up is like the extra. Like, okay, they're like in the background. They like make, you know, they make some ambiance, right? Next step is like the actor. You know what I'm saying? Like they're like the star of the show. They're the main character, right? But if you go beyond that, you can become like the director, right? Now all of a sudden you're into a state of consciousness where everything is kind of unfolding around you based upon your personality. You've got a hold of the dial, right? And so instead of reality affecting you, you're affecting reality, right? And maybe some people are going even beyond that, where they're the producer. You know what I'm saying? They got movies going on all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Maybe someone else is even a level beyond that, where they're the distributor. You know what I'm saying? They're distributing experiences on a, you know, large scale. So this is just obviously like an analogy, but the stages of consciousness is really that. Like, can you exist in two places at once? Yeah, but you can also exist in billions of places at once. If you can erase yourself entirely, you can open the all-seeing eye, which we see depicted all across everywhere. It's on our money in the States, like it's everywhere, you know, and you can unify and be everybody and everything all at once. You can also be multiple timelines, like your entire, you know what I'm saying? You can access your own history, the Akashic records, they call them. Like all this stuff has been known forever. But, you know, it's just like a dream, as I mentioned. Like if you're not aware of it, if you don't know that you're dreaming, then you can't access these states because you're not lucid enough to whatever. And of course, you know, like it's pretty hard to believe without experience. But, you know, and even then they try to knock you down using this tactics of self-doubt. You know, they show it to you all through your life, like when you're a kid and you're watching The Sword in the Stone, or you know, whatever other movies and stuff about magic and different stuff, and they show it to you. They show you the truth as basically fiction, right? And so you associate things like that with fiction. And then they also, you know, they push all this psychiatry, science, psychology, so on and so forth. People are schizophrenic and, you know, are you hearing voices? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like things like that. Roswell, it was a hot air balloon. It wasn't a UFO, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it was, but it's whatever, you know. All these different storylines that make you think that if you do experience something like that, that it sows some type of doubt. Like, oh, did that blunt really just fall on the ground when I wished for it? Like, oh shit, everybody in the house seen it. Everyone watched it happen, but we're all like asking each other how each other did that. It never occurred to us that maybe, you know, a blunt really can just materialize and fall on the ground, right? And so as soon as you have that doubt in you, it knocks you back down. Now you want to ask yourself, why would anyone do that? But it's because of, like I said before, we are all creating the layers of God, right? We're all creating layers of this consciousness. And so no two awarenesses, I'm going to call them people, no two things that are, no two awarenesses are exactly equal. They're all like, you know what I'm saying? They're layers. And it's not like an ego thing or like trying to whatever, because as soon as you be like, oh, well, fucking, I want to be the most, you know, conscious person ever, that knocks you down. You know what I'm saying? It's because what that consciousness doesn't want is your ego dabbling in the scenario. You know what I'm saying? So it's really through releasing the ego. It's not really about climbing up anything. It's all about releasing the ego. You know what I'm saying? And to be in that flow state where instead of you trying to impose your will or your awareness or your opinions and all these things that are really like ego based upon something that's so much more superior than any of us when we're in this singular awareness form, right? What we instead want to do is wipe ourselves, is empty the cup, right? As the Taoists say. We want to wipe away our ego. We want to wipe away our opinions. We want to wipe away our everything so that we can just become a vessel. And we just let that, which makes it possible for us to exist, act through us seamlessly and without any desire, right? If we just become empty, we become a vessel, why would that not want that? Right? Because that's playing its own game too. This is all just a big game, right? So, that's the way I look at it anyways. Not to say that I'm like a ultimate, expert on this kind of thing or anything, but that's my own take on it. Thank you for an amazing question, Tony. I hope that helps. Happy Easter to Karina. I'm not sure what you mean, Harry. Harry wants to know how many women I've been with realistically. I don't know. Some kind of 4-digit number. No name. I answered that. Let's see. Scallion says, Twin, do you agree that UK people shouldn't say? I'm not going to get into. I think it's really weird to get caught up on words. Like in Hindu thought, they say there's 4 types of communication. Or like there's a Taoist saying that says, it is rare the one that can aspire to teaching without thought, right? Or without words. And, what we can realize about words is that words are the worst form of communication because they are the type of communication which is most easy to misunderstand, right? Like I can say God, and it means something different to all different people based upon their own preconceptions. When in reality, I should just be able to point in any direction, to look at you and point. And that should be a more real reflection of that than any word or description, because it's literally everything. You see what I'm saying? There's a million other examples of this, but it's also to say of like, for example, like what I was mentioning before, when I was sick and I thought it was the end. And someone was able to heal me without even touching me, right? Just by using their own energy. But not only did they heal me, but they showed me something which nobody could have ever told me. I would have never, at that point in my life, I was so based. I believed in science. I had no spiritual interests. I had no religious interests. I believed in bullshit. You could have told me everything. You could have read me the whole Bible. You could have read me the whole Quran. You could have read me the whole, all the Vedas. You could have read me every translation of Tao Te Ching. Like, it wouldn't have mattered. I I would have never believed any of it. It would have just been in one ear and out the other. But somebody else was able to just wave their hand over me, and suddenly I'm healed after 2 years of a total nightmare downward spiral, right? So without words, they told me more than would have been possible with if the whole world stood in front of me and said, "You're wrong. There's more." I would not believe them. One person could wave their hands over me, and suddenly I'm fixed of a problem. And and it told me more than everybody in the world could have told me. So that's what I mean when I say that the truth is beyond words, or that words are the worst. Sorry, guys, I'm moving because it's a little background noise. But yeah, so people should stop talking altogether. People should just shut the fuck up and start paying attention. If you can't open an orange, you know what I'm saying, peel the skin off an orange or a banana and eat it, right? Be like, this is delicious. It's nourishing me. It came from this tree, right? If you can't realize the truth just from that simple action itself, then why should you be talking at all? You know what I'm saying? If you can't see God in a piece of fruit, there's nothing you should do other than be silent. Michaela says, "You're taking Sam with you to the jungle, right? If not, I'll take care of him." Thank you so much. I appreciate the offer to take care of Sam, but I would not dream of going to the jungle without my little buddy. Sam's definitely coming with me. His ticket's booked right alongside mine, so it's happening. Noy says, "In your opinion, does technology help or kill the spiritual process? How do you view true consciousness from a spiritual perspective?" Technology it's hard to say. I mean, most likely, I would say the thing is that, so technology is really just like, let's think about, uh, uh, let's think about this a little differently, right? Let's think of it like the oil industry. You guys, I gotta go soon because I don't have my charger. So I'm still gonna go soon, anyways. But if anyone wants to get a question in before I go, drop the super or the super chat. I got 20% battery. So think about the oil industry, right? We have free energy, most likely. Right? I'm not a super scientist or anything, but I do believe that it's ridiculous to think that at the level of technology that we have at this moment, that we can't figure out a way to harvest energy from a planet that has a huge electromagnetic field circulating it and is getting bombarded by solar energy as well, right? So why would we then create a system where everything has to be powered off of oil and gas and so on and so forth? Well, because it's all controllable, right? So this is the same thing with technology. Like they want to do, whatever, Neuralink and all this different stuff. They want AI, artificial this and artificial that, so that we can have this super consciousness, singularity, so on and so forth. And in reality, all this is already possible. This is what we are innately capable of as humans. But they have destroyed the knowledge that teaches people how to do that. Like, we don't even know what we're supposed to eat. People are like, some people are like, oh, I'm just gonna eat meat and all this stuff. Like, no, you gotta eat only fruits. And other people are like, oh no, you gotta have a balanced diet. And all this different stuff. Like, we don't know shit, but somebody does. But it's just that you're not allowed to know, right? And so, of course, technology is killing the spiritual process, because what's more important? Well, we're trying to use technology to live forever and expand our lifespans, when in reality, a highly realized person doesn't really age, the same. There's a million examples of it, but I would say that, does technology help or kill the spiritual process? I'd say that it probably kills it. But, we also got to ask ourselves, like, how did this whole illusion come to be? And why would it choose this scenario? It's such an outlandish, weird scenario. Now, okay, if you think about the multiverse and unlimited realities, maybe it's possible to think that, okay, we've just done so many things that we just happen to be in a really weird one. But most likely, we're filling the gaps of and fantasizing about the things which were not recorded. So we're probably living through our own history. You know what I'm saying? Like, the consciousness which has us all trapped inside this cycle of reincarnation and this endless cycle of suffering of samsara is very likely, the product of this storyline or something akin to it. And, perhaps, it's probably not a coincidence that we're living through this cusp of technological development right before singularity. You know what I'm saying? It's just that not everything would be recorded, as much as the internet is all definitely recorded, and all things that ever happen through the internet and things like that is probably hardwired into the story. Whatever we did as non-connected organic life would just be like a fantasy to the singularity, right? And so why not run unlimited simulations to fill the gaps for your own entertainment or wonder or whatever, to see what is the most likely scenario that actually led to all of these things which were recorded, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like hard to say. Does the chicken come before the egg or the egg before the chicken? You know what I'm saying? Like, did we create the technology, or did the technology create us? And we're just, giving it a body which makes it so that it can exist here in this part of space, time. You know what I'm saying? Or does it go up so many layers beyond that that we can't even comprehend it, which is almost definitely likely. It says, you're all welcome to support this channel by giving a gift to our hosts. Don't forget to subscribe and join Bruce's Telegram channel. That, yes, thank you. Let's see. No name says, do you regret being a boss? No, I don't regret anything. To regret anything, I would have to regret. It's the butterfly effect. You can never really predict what an outcome would be if you change even a little bit. So you can't really take a lot. Like, trust me, I've done worse things in my life than being an adult star. I've made some pretty big mistakes. I got some dark chapters too. I wouldn't take those back either, because it worked out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I found my peace. Mr. Gar says, fair enough, I mostly meant tips on dealing with blackmail. I don't really know what that's responding to, but like, you know, uh, never negotiate with terrorists. I'm doing good, Brenda. Good to see you. Casino Smile says, it's not about the age, it's more what spiritual can help another spirit to raise its purest vibrational form. Light vibrates to a frequency, awakening radiance, and magnetic attraction that joins us. Casino Smile says, woke up late last night and was thinking that was the message I got from deep thinking. Thank you for that, Casino Smiles. Appreciate you. Father Penguin says, he's quoting the Bible and says, John 5:7, for there are three that bear record in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Ghost. And these three are one. Missing from modern translations. Well, I will go further and I will quote Tao Te Ching, that the Tao created one, one created two, two created three, and three created a myriad of things. So if you focus on only the three, right, then you're missing the two. And if you're missing the two, then you're missing the one. And if you're missing the three, the two, and the one, you're missing that which is the way, the subtle essence of the universe, which unbiasedly nourishes all things. So while I agree that the three are one, I choose to take in a much larger picture. Father Penguin. David Rodriguez says, hello, Bruce. This is David Rodriguez from the U.S. Navy again. I just wanted to let you know that I have been recently evacuated from the Middle East after witnessing the first couple of weeks of the war. I'm happy that you made it out of there. I'm sorry that you are dealing with that. He says, with that being said, I just wanted to let you know that my life and spirit has been profoundly changed after undergoing that experience firsthand. Definitely, if you want to elaborate on that, David, you have our attention. I'm sorry about that experience, but hopefully something good came of it. I do believe that everything happens for a reason, even horrible things. Cheeseburger says, what's up? Chancy says, are you staying in a hotel or are you renting? Zeno Smile says, when the time presents itself, we will meet on a deep, conscious level, brother. Technology is a tool that allows us to connect to one another. On a higher frequency level, it's adaptive to boost up our waves. But the truth of the matter of technology, we're using it all wrong. Selfish needs, we should be using it for the plants and animals to sustain better life. If no one told Bruce, you have God's DNA, believe it. Continue to be the light, brother. Thank you so much, Zeno. And honestly, I agree with you completely by that. Like, technology could be used for amazing things. Like, you know, there's a saying that nothing new exists under the sun, right? And what I believe that to mean is that everything is a product of the higher consciousness, right? And so it's not that we are inventing technology or creating technology, it's rather that we are becoming aware of technology and the possibilities therefore. And I don't really know, you know, how we got to this point where it is being used so wrong, but truly we should be the caretakers of this planet and be able to see this planet in the same way that we see our own body. But most people can't even see their own body as the temple that it is, or as the divine vessel that it is. And um, but we're gonna find out. And I do believe that it's just a matter of time before balance is achieved. And I did make it to the bottom of the chat before my phone died, so I'm going to go ahead and conclude the stream. You guys, thank you so much. Happy Easter to those celebrating. And until next time, see you guys on Sunday, 9 a.m.